Hey, girlfriend, are you ready for a new ism based on love and friendship? Welcome to Girlfriendism.
So today's episode is about this very simple statement. If you struggle with women and girlfriends in your life, you may be lacking this one thing, is that you may lack emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage your own emotions, empathy. You have to be intentional about exercising these tips that I'm going to share with you to be emotionally intelligent. You can reclaim that power by making these changes with these 7 habits. Take your power back. And it may hurt just a little bit, but there's good news at the end. So taking a step back, right? Taking a moment to pause before we respond to something, and also taking a moment to put ourselves in that other person's shoes, that requires a different level of intelligence that most people just don't have. Most people are very reactive. They take things personally. They put blocks up before you can even get through. And girlfriends, this is where, as women, we can make such strides if we can work through these emotional intelligence characteristics. If we judge each other, if we only react to each other, if we don't take a moment to recognize that anything any woman has gone through, we have gone through it to some degree or the other, and that we should therefore empathize. Even when someone is being totally disrespectful and out of order, there's so much to gain from walking away than engaging, because then what that does is just pulls you down to another level and even taps into your own trauma. And now, instead of there being one traumatized person and one emotionally intelligent person, that creates a situation where they're just two unintelligent, emotionally unintelligent people in that moment, right? Because you can be an overall, generally emotionally intelligent person, but you may still struggle in some of these areas and you may need to be more intentional about that. Or you may be engaging with people where emotional intelligence is not even something that they've heard of, much less think of, much less act out on. So empathy is the second. Then the third is self-regulation. So that is so key. And I think this is where, for people who don't understand what emotional intelligence is and how that can appear in behavior, it's hard for people to understand. If you are a loose cannon, this is going to be very difficult for you to wrap your head around. If you label yourself as a self-proclaimed realist, because any person who's a realist, usually they're self-proclaimed. No one else labeled them that. They label themselves that. And I'm here to tell you, my love, that you may not necessarily be a realist. You might just be emotionally unintelligent. And I say that with the most love, because being real isn't about brutal honesty, and being real isn't about being disrespectful, right? You can be honest with love and care and empathy, but if you lack self-regulation, you're going to always find yourself in situations where you're popping off, you're upset, you're defensive, you think everything is about you. And girl, no one has time to focus on you all the time. Everyone is trying to manage their own shit. But if you're not even aware of that, you think that everything is personal, you lack the ability to empathize with other people, and then you sure as hell can't self-regulate. And so you'll find yourself in situations where you're constantly going in back and forth, and that gives up your energy. And darling, can I pause from the intellectual conversation for a minute? Can we just be clear about the fact that when you're constantly engaging in toxic conversations and friendships, you can be cute, honey. If nothing else, if for vanity alone, you want to tap into emotional intelligence, if you want to wake up with radiance and sunshine in your face and in your skin and in your energy, you need to tap into this here, right quick. Okay. So I am saying this with all due love. Not everything requires a reaction. You can respond. And hear me when I say no response is a response. Sometimes you may find yourself in situations with girlfriends where you really need to ask yourself, is this a battle that I need to pick? What is the overall grand picture of this friendship with this person? Do I want to have a long-term friendship with this person? If so, it may be worth having that discussion. But if not, if it is a friendship that typically drains you, that makes you feel devalued, then you might want to take a step away. Don't even engage. self-regulate, and just practice some mindfulness, which we'll get to at the end. And here's the thing though. When I say that, also know that you have to learn to release people with love. And that means that just because you release someone doesn't mean that you need to have an attitude about, yeah, I let her go. I had to cut her off, because that body language in itself, the tone and the energy that it takes even to respond in that way, says that you are still unhealed, baby. You still have work to do. You want to get to a point with your emotional intelligence, with your EQ, that you're so unbothered about what other people are doing or how they respond, or unbothered about the fact that you have just entered into another chapter, that you don't need to keep reiterating who you've released and who you've cut off. And that was actually one of our survey questions that we're going to have an entirely different episode about, the energy that it requires to cut someone off versus the energy that it takes for you to elevate to a level that will allow those who no longer serve you to eliminate themselves without you having to do anything. That's another episode. Let's get through these other tips for becoming an emotionally intelligent person so that you can experience better experiences with women and long-term friendships with women. So motivation is another characteristic of individuals who are emotionally intelligent. So emotionally intelligent people, they're motivated to achieve their goals. And to be honest, when I think about girlfriendism and the women that we attract, I think about motivation. I think about, women who have just decided, you know what, I want to support other women. I want to grow with other women because I am so motivated on my goals. I understand that if I want to go a short way, I'll go alone. If I want to go a long way, I can go with other women. And so I'm not intimidated by that. I know what my goals are. I know what my purpose is. And so I can remain focused on that so that the little petty things that often deteriorate relationships, and it's so unfortunate just because of the lack of emotional intelligence, because there is a resolution to every problem. Let's be clear. And in fact, problems are not problems. They're just opportunities for you to grow, opportunities for your girlfriends to grow. But because of our mindset and sometimes our lack of emotional intelligence, relationships that could possibly last a lifetime are often destroyed just because of the lack of emotional intelligence. But motivation is one of those key things amongst women. When you find women who are motivated and focused on their goals, they don't have time for the pettiness. And I really do think about girlfriendism in that way. We are just a tribe of such focused girlfriends, whether we're entrepreneurs, whether we're creatives, whether we're advocates, we're passionate about what we're doing in our lives. And so petty has no space in our lives. So motivation is one of those characteristics, and it actually helps with your friendships, right? Now, social skills, that is another component, right? Now, let me just be clear. I want to acknowledge that social anxiety is real, right? Anxiety, depression, which interacts with our ability to even be social, those are very real diagnoses. And if so, know that this is not intended to provide medical advice, but I want you to know that there's also no shame in seeking a mental health provider to help you with that, because it can definitely impact this next characteristics of social skills. Okay. So social skills are something that, when people say you're so friendly, you're so likable, you're so easy to get along, you're so happy, that is partly social skills. But those social skills are honestly intertwined with that empathy, self-regulation, and awareness. There are times when I go into a room, and as jovial and happy as I am, I can tell when I'm not being well received by people, or if I may be putting someone off. Because of my ability to read the room, I know if maybe I need to sway more to the left, if I need to sway more to the right, if I need to sit down and stay and be in sisterhood, or if I may need to make this a very short visit. I can read a room, right? But I can also read myself and tap into, okay, how am I feeling in this situation? Do I feel safe and comfortable in my skin? Yes. So if someone is responding to me, does that have anything to do with me? If they're responding negatively? Actually, no, because I feel safe and comfortable in my skin. And so what I need to do is have empathy for that person and just show them love and light and demonstrate that. So in reciprocity, I'm not giving them back what they give to me. Because remember, to give people the negativity that they give you, you now have to become negative. So emotional intelligence is being firm in who you are as a person and as a girlfriend. So no matter what negativity or toxicity exists around you, you don't then internalize that to feed it right back to them. Do not become the person that you do not admire, right? Do not become the person that cannot contribute to your life. Be the person that you know that you were created and purposed to be, right? And so that definitely impacts your social skills, your awareness, ability to read a room, ability to regulate your own emotions. That is what also contributes to my light, because I'm not ignorant in situations, for example, where someone may be acting a kind of way with me, right? But because I'm very much aware that, okay, I see that for what it is. Let me make a mental note so that I can be cautious, not nervous, scared, but just cautious in how I go into that, right? Into that interaction and that communication. But I am also regulating myself because no one else has control over me. Now, the other two, so expressiveness. So this article says sometimes people are empaths and in tune with their emotions, but they struggle to actually share their feelings with others. And so this is probably one of the areas where I struggle most in terms of expressiveness, because I do regulate so much to the point where I keep things in and I don't express how I may be feeling. And that is for some reason. But it is also important in building trust with other women, right? And being able to express how you feel. Now, the key is, again, you can express with love. I think sometimes the notion that we have to be brutally honest, I think that's just a cap out for not having emotional intelligence and not being able to be vulnerable. Because emotional intelligence also requires that you be vulnerable and say, listen, I really feel hurt by that. I've had experiences where girlfriends have abandoned me in the past. And when you said this, or did this, it actually triggered me. And so I feel like as a girlfriend right now, I want to touch base with you and just reaffirm our friendship. And so you can understand how I'm feeling. And then I, in turn, can also understand what you meant by this or how we can clear up our communication. But if we don't express ourselves in our relationships, whether it's with girlfriends or intimate partners, and even at work, we're not going to be able to see the growth that can occur, the beauty that can occur from that communication. Because remember, so much in communication can be miscommunication. The only way to get on the same page with other women and with girlfriends in your life is to communicate. And that's why I get back to don't cut people off, because sometimes you're cutting off what you think is just toxic, but you could also be cutting off the beautiful things about that person and all there is to learn and grow from. So focus on that open communication. And then the last but not least is perceptiveness. So in this Very Well Mind, it says to imagine that you find yourself getting frustrated and angry with a coworker. That probably is not very difficult to imagine. As you assess your feelings, analyze what you're really upset about, right? Is it that person, or could it be frustrations with the work environment, which actually has to do with your boss and not the person? Same thing with girlfriends, right? When you find yourself in a situation where you are frustrated, you're upset, maybe people in your life are lying to you, or they're being dishonest, they're not treating you well, and you have an encounter with a girlfriend, your perception at that point in time of your life, you may be on high alert, and therefore you're not perceiving reality, right? And this is where the expressiveness comes in. How do you know if your reality is true? Well, you got to check in with your girlfriends to see if the way that you're receiving something, is that really true? Because we go through different stages in our lives, and sometimes we allow our emotions, which are intended to inform us, but not to control us, we allow that to take over. And then that in turn impacts the way that we perceive the world, impacts the way that we perceive life, and therefore impacts the way that we perceive other women. And so you have to check in with yourself. Where am I? What is my mental state? What's happening around me? And how does this contribute to my relationship with women? And so, my loves, these are the 7 habits of emotionally intelligent people. I hope that you found this to be helpful. I think one of the greatest takeaways is to make sure that in all things, you pause and then you choose either how to respond or if you want to respond at all. And I'll tell you one of the situations where that is so key. I say that not everything deserves a response, because after you evaluate some of these things, your perception, your emotions, your communication, your energy, and the way it impacts the room and other people, you may find that the problem really isn't women in your life. You may find that the problem really isn't girlfriends. My loves, this may hurt a little bit, but you may find that the problem is really you. And in those cases, when you pause and you assess and you find that, you know what, I am really the shit show here, then there's nothing to respond to but yourself. Work on yourself so you can be your best self. Take those moments to pause. The girlfriends deserve it, but guess what? More than anyone who deserves grace and a non-judgmental safe space, it's you. You deserve to give yourself grace, and you deserve to be non-judgmental with yourself, so you in turn can be non-judgmental with the girlfriends and the people around you. That, my loves, is how you put emotional intelligence into play. And to be honest, my loves, this is the way that I have been able to own a company called Girlfriendism International and My Girlfriend's Closet over the last decade and counting. And it's the way that I have been able to keep so many friendships from high school up to now. So you could take my word for it, or you could not. All I can say is that I feel like I do demonstrate this, in the spaces that I create for women and in my actual relationships. And for the very, very, very few who may have an issue, I would not be surprised if their EQ testings are a little low. Okay, that was a little shade. I take it back. Well, no, I don't take it back. But shade, there are always areas for us to improve. Even me, like I said, my expressiveness is something that I'm working on. And guess what? This YouTube channel is helping me to do that. So thank you so much for liking, subscribing, listening, and sharing. I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm yours truly, your girlfriend, Dr. K. Love you. Mwah.
That's all for now, girlfriends. Let's stay connected and subscribe for more at www.girlfriendism.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.